The afternoon of March 7, 2026 in Melbourne witnessed a massive display of force that screamed to the world who the new master of Formula One is. Mercedes delivered a technical knockout to its rivals by locking out the front row with George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. George Russell, taking pole with a 1-minute 18.518 lap, proved not just his speed but the perfection of Mercedes' 2026 aerodynamic philosophy. Yet behind this triumph lies the tear-inducing effort of Mercedes mechanics, who rebuilt Antonelli's totaled car in just 2 hours after his horrific FP3 crash. On the other side, the shock exit of title favourite Max Verstappen in Q1 and Ferrari's cold shower with Lewis Hamilton proved just how ruthless the 2026 regulations truly are. Today wasn't just a qualifying session, we witnessed the return of one empire and the shaking of another. At F1 Perspective, we are declassifying every millisecond of this historic day, from Red Bull Racing's new hero Ishaq Hajar's rise to position 3 to the midfield battle of Racing Bull's pilots Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblad. At the end of FP3, Kimi Antonelli's high-speed barrier impact was severe enough to make even the most veteran engineers say, "This car won't make it." The front left suspension geometry was shredded, and the critical front wing actuators, those high-speed 400 millisecond components, were reduced to debris. However, Mercedes mechanics, working with a discipline forged in the chaotic no-curfew days, prepared the W17 for qualifying with surgical precision. Antonelli rewarded this heroic effort by taking position 2 in Q3, right behind Russell. This is proof that Mercedes is not just a car manufacturer, but an engineering army. Antonelli's lap with that wounded chassis is already etched in memory as one of the greatest driving performances of 2026. Inside sources suggest that stress cracks on Antonelli's chassis were temporarily patched with carbon fiber bonding, and the young pilot will chase the podium on Sunday with this wounded beast. George Russell took pole position with a 1-minute 18.518 lap, proving to the entire paddock that Mercedes' 2026 aerodynamic philosophy is on the ultimate path. Mercedes' extreme downwash bodywork channels high energy flow to the rear wing and diffuser with such efficiency that the car generates significantly more downforce at the end of straights and in high-speed corners than its rivals. During Russell's lap, the rear of the car looked as if it were on rails. Specifically, his transition speed through turns 9 and 10 was plus 4 km/h higher than his rivals. While Ferrari and Red Bull were searching for balance at Albert Park, Mercedes found pure speed. When Russell said this is just the beginning over the radio after his pole lap, he was sending the clearest message to his rivals about what awaits them in 2026. Mercedes' new front-wing camber and straightless design cleaned up front-end turbulence, maximizing rear-end efficiency and delivering that legendary lap for Russell. The biggest shock of qualifying was undoubtedly Max Verstappen's exit in Q1. In the final corner of his lap, Verstappen lost the rear of the RB22, impacted the barriers and broke his suspension. Red Bull's infamous torque ripple in the 2026 power unit and inconsistencies in the ERS system are making it impossible for Verstappen to drive on the absolute limit. The look of pure fury on Verstappen's face as he climbed out of the car was the clearest sign that engineers in Milton Keynes won't be sleeping tonight. Red Bull's traditional approach, limited to front and rear wing revisions, seems entirely ineffective against the radical aero moves of Mercedes. Verstappen will be forced to attempt one of the toughest comebacks in history, starting from the back of the grid on Sunday. The champion's crash is a reflection of the deep struggles Red Bull is facing in adapting to the new power unit regulations. On a day when Max Verstappen was left in the wreckage, the young star taking over the Red Bull Racing seat, Ishaq Hajar, snatched P3 with a performance that shook the paddock. Hajar managed to tame the RB22 that Verstappen couldn't, turning the car's small and fast spool-up character to his advantage. Hajar's lap proved that while Red Bull actually possesses a formidable aero package, that package is dangerously sensitive. By outperforming the Ferrari pilots to get this close to the front row, Hajar demonstrated just how fragile the 2026 power balance truly is. Now everyone understands why Helmut Marko was so insistent on Hajar. On Sunday, Hajar will be waiting like a hunter in ambush right behind the Mercedes drivers. While all hopes in Maranello were pinned on the Red Revolution, Lewis Hamilton's P7 finish was a total disappointment. Charles Leclerc finished just ahead of Hamilton, but remained far from the pole fight. Ferrari's SF26, without the famous Macarena wing from Bahrain testing, simply cannot match its rivals over a single lap. Throughout his run, Hamilton complained of significant understeer at the front end, while Leclerc struggled to balance the rear-end instability. Although Ferrari engineers claim they are focused on race pace and tyre degradation optimization, this half-second gap in qualifying is unacceptable for a pilot like Hamilton. Ferrari's standard wing design, which we call safe mode, left the car breathless in Melbourne's high-speed corners against Mercedes' aggressive aero moves. Hamilton will chase the podium from P7, and Leclerc from slightly ahead, using strategy on Sunday. Over at McLaren, we witnessed a total redemption story on Saturday following Lando Norris's terrifying gearbox failure on Friday. Home hero Oscar Piastri sent the Albert Park grandstands into a frenzy with a bold lap that tracked purple in several mini-sectors, positioning himself as a primary threat right behind the Mercedes Lockout, while Norris managed to bring the MCL40 back to a competitive level at the front of the grid, thanks to his mechanic's sleepless night. McLaren's new rear wing flaps and revised floor edge have kept the rear end of the car rock solid, granting Piastri the high-speed confidence he desperately needed, and the team's consistency throughout the session allowed them to effectively exploit Ferrari's ongoing balance struggles. While Piastri and Norris haven't yet found a complete answer to Mercedes' untouchable straight-line speed, the looming question of whether the immense 2026 torque output will once again strain the gearbox over a full race distance remains the primary concern in the McLaren garage. Nevertheless, for the homegrown hero Piastri, a podium finish has shifted from a dream to a very realistic target for Sunday. Over at Racing Bulls RB, Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblad engaged in a fierce midfield battle. Lawson used his experience to maximize the efficiency of the massive vertical vanes in the floor body to complete his lap. Young Arvid Lindblad, in his first serious F1 qualifying session, finished right behind Lawson, showcasing his potential. RB's junior Red Bull identity this season promises an agility that can compete with Mercedes and Ferrari, especially in low-speed corners. Lawson will race on Sunday to escape the infamous midfield traffic and break into the points. For Lindblad, Melbourne is serving as a survival lesson in the ruthless world of Formula One. In the Aston Martin garage, Adrian Newey continues to make confusing statements about the 2026 Honda project. Newey claimed that while Honda's battery vibration issues remain unresolved, the cars are more competitive than expected, even in this state. Fernando Alonso's inconsistent qualifying performance raises the question of whether Newey's comments are merely damage control. Honda batteries are still overheating during high torque output, causing the ERS to shut down clipping towards the end of the lap. Even a genius like Newey struggling with this vibration crisis suggests the Honda-Aston Martin honeymoon will be a painful one. The real question for Aston Martin on Sunday will be whether they have enough battery life left to see the checkered flag. The real event rocking the paddock before qualifying was the straight mode, active aero revolt led by the drivers against the FIA. A group of drivers led by Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton demanded a rule change, arguing that activating wings at the start would lead to a massacre at Turn 1. The FIA yielded to this pressure and completely banned active aero usage from the start until the first corner. This U-turn shattered Ferrari's dreams of using their cunning inverted wing advantage off the line. Now on Sunday, all cars will remain locked in Z-mode, high downforce at the start. While this ensures safety, it completely nullified the straight-line edge for teams like Ferrari and Red Bull. Tomorrow's start will be a battle of pure traction and turbo spool-up management. As Melbourne qualifying ends, one truth remains: Mercedes has seized the rivals' logistical and technical chaos to declare itself the new master of the paddock. Antonelli's heroic rise from the wreckage and Russell's flawless 1-minute 18.518 pole lap prove why the Silver Arrows are unstoppable in 2026. While Leclerc and Hamilton hold out hope for a strategic miracle for the podium, Isaac Hajar will try to fly the Red Bull flag at the very front and salvage the senior team's pride on his own. However, all eyes will be on Max Verstappen as he attempts to pull off the impossible from the very back of the grid on Sunday. Mercedes' victory today is a testament not just to speed, but to human endurance and aerodynamic precision at its finest. But the real drama starts tomorrow under the immense pressure of the new blue light sequence, where we will see if the 2026 gearboxes can truly handle that massive standing start torque. We are on the edge of a new empire, the battle lines are drawn, and every single corner has now become a fight for survival. Let's ignite the debate in the comments. Discuss the Mercedes 1-2 dominance and your race expectations from every single granular angle. Stay tuned to F1 Perspective for the fastest, readiest and smartest paddock leaks, and continue living this massive season opener from the front row with us. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell right now. Make sure you are the one exiting the pits best prepared. Stay fast, stay smart.